This is huge, as an NBA insider revealed the Lakers were targeting some big man help to help shore up the Lakers at the backup center position, and he could have came at a reasonable price. However, does his fit make sense for this team? What's good? I'm Okechi Apakama, and this is Lakers Digest coming at you with another video. And before we get into everything we have for you, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already to get those Laker updates, especially with us trying to push towards 3,000 subscribers. So each and every one of you guys who subscribe to the channel really help out. Now, with that out of the way, let's hop straight into today's topics, as the Lakers were interested in Nick Richards. So, add this to another name for the Lakers of players that they've been interested in. So there's been a couple of names that we've heard, a Jonas Valanciunas, a Clint Capella, a Walker Kessler, and now we can add Nick Richards to the list. So this is from Clutch Sports here, as the Lakers were involved in an offseason trade pursuit to covet the Hornets center. This is from Brett Siegel, NBA Insider, and he went in to say that during the offseason, the trade market around the NBA is volatile. Countless calls are made regardless if there is serious momentum towards a trade being made. The Lakers expressed interest in several possible trade targets during the summer. League sources confirmed to Clutch Sports. One of the players they expressed interest in was Nick Richards from the Charlotte Hornets. Richards was a 2020 second-round pick and has spent his entire career with the Hornets. While he did not hold much of a role during the first 2 seasons in the league, Richards has since become a very intriguing role player at the center position because of his rebounding and toughness on the interior. Due to Charlotte dealing with various frontcourt injuries throughout the years, Richards has stepped into a much larger role for them, and he has played a career-high 67 games and 51 starts during the 2023-2024 season. So that is a big point there made at the end, as Richards has started to be getting more playing time, and a lot of more teams are seeing what he can do at that end and that side of the ball. And it is very intriguing for a lot of teams, because the Lakers weren't the only team that were possibly looking into a guy like Nick Richards' service. But just for the Los Angeles Lakers, getting a guy like Nick Richards, I think, would be a very viable option, mostly because of what he can possibly do in that backup center position role, and he'll be a guy that wouldn't cost you too much to get. And I think that is a big determining factor when you're looking to really shore up your roster and shore up that end of the roster there. And just like, look at this as his salary for the next 2 seasons, as he'll be getting paid $5 million each season, which is a very reasonable price for a team like the Los Angeles Lakers, who is looking just to add players and let's really take away from what they have on the roster. So this is much different from some of the guys that they've been looking at. Like I said, one Brook Lopez, who makes up to $20 million, and a guy like Clint Capella, who makes well enough as well. So this is a much cheaper option for the Los Angeles Lakers, and if they're able to get a deal done, then it wouldn't take maybe more of a 1-for-1 swap, or maybe even a veteran minimum and one of your younger guys that you can throw in this trade to really make this work. But like I said, there was a few other teams interested in. So Brett went on his article saying that, as the case of the Lakers, the Hornets never came close to trading Richards away this offseason, sources said, along with wanting to maintain flexibility with Richards being injured. Charlotte has liked the production and energy Richards has brought. Among a handful of teams had showed interest in Richards this offseason, including the Lakers. The Knicks were eyeing the Hornets center well before anything happened with Towns, sources said, as a replacement for Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson in the front court. So there was also a couple of other teams they listed, teams like the Phoenix Suns and then also the New Orleans Pelicans. So if the Lakers were to go after a guy like Nick Richards, there was going to be some competition in order to acquire his services. But like I said, it is a much more reasonable price, because this is a guy that's probably not going to cost you a first-round pick. He's probably going to cost you a second-round pick, which is, I think, totally reasonable in this situation, and then one of your lower level salaries. So you wouldn't have to trade a guy like a D'Angelo Russell or a Rui Hachimura to really make this deal get done. But we're talking about the viability of how he fits with the Los Angeles Lakers, and that really gets me to my next point here, as how Richards fits with the Lakers. So this is a big determining factor for getting a center like Richards. He is more of that really hard worker, hustle, set hard screens, and play some defense type of guy. He's not really a stretch 5 like some people are looking for, but he is a sturdy 5, which is very competent. So let's take a look at his stats, because he had about 51 starts, so it's a pretty good sample size of what he can do on that side of the ball. And so this is his stats from last season. He averaged almost 10 points per game at 9.7, had about 8.0 rebounds per game to go along with a block per game, and he has shot over 69%. So this is pretty much all layups and dunks, all in and around the paint, and most of his twos were assisted on, because when you have a guy like LaMelo Ball and also a guy like Trey Mann, there is a multitude of guys that can get you the basketball in very simple spots for you to help facilitate finishes. So if you were to flip that and have this guy on the Los Angeles Lakers, when you have great passers like D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reaves, and then probably one of the best passers of all time, LeBron James, really feeding the ball, then there's the opportunity to find a lot more easy buckets, especially in the way the Lakers offense is, with a lot of ball and player movement. So if a guy like Nick Richards sets hard screens and rolls hard, he's going to find himself open for a lot of easy buckets. But the big thing for me is how he fits defensively, because that, I think, was what the Lakers are truly looking for. Some guy to really help shore up some of that backup center minutes, especially defensively, because when Anthony Davis stepped off the floor for the Lakers last season and he wasn't playing for them, they really fell apart as a defensive unit, and mainly because Anthony Davis is tremendous and is a super defender. He covers up so much ground and does so much for Los Angeles Lakers that when he comes out, it's really unfair to ask the next guy to do some of the things that Anthony Davis does. But I think the biggest thing is for them is having that structure, and then just having a guy that is just Anthony Davis-like size. So a guy like a Christian Wood, who was more of an offensive-minded center, isn't really going to do some of that five-man things. And then another guy like Jackson Hayes, who, again, is more of an offensive center and a leaper, so he is still working his way to really becoming that better defensive player. But a guy like Nick Richards already has some of that defensive capability, averaging just over a block per game last season, and he was the main center for that Charlotte Hornets team, as Mark Williams, who is their main center and probably their center of the future, missed a good amount of time. So Nick Richards found himself in a lot of solo center minutes, usually with maybe a guy like Bridges or Grant Williams to the next of him. So these aren't really bigger dudes right next to him, and he's still putting up almost double-digit rebounds per game and then a block per game. So that is a very viable ask for a guy at the backup center role. And then Anthony Davis is so versatile that maybe you can play him in some spots minutes with Richards and Davis, and then you can really add to your defensive value, because you can throw Richards on those bigger type of centers, and then you can have Anthony Davis really roam around on the perimeter, really wreaking havoc on that side of the ball, and really utilizing the different skill sets that he hasn't been able to utilize because he's been stuck at the 5 position. So I do think a guy like Richards can really open that up. And like I said, the thing that I truly like about him is the price, because if you're able to find a backup center for around $5 million a season, I think that is a pretty viable get. And you wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't have to trade a guy like a Hachimura or D'Angelo Russell. You can probably trade Christian Wood and one of the younger guys to really help shore up this deal and make this work. But the biggest thing is probably the second round picks, because there is going to be some competition for a guy like Nick Richards' services if he does become available, because currently, for right now, it seems like the Charlotte Hornets are going to be holding on for him because they're just unsure of a guy like Mark Williams. But if he can show that he can be healthy and ready to go for them and play a good amount of games for them, then I can see a guy like Nick Richards becoming available. And then that's when I think Rob Pelinka and the Lakers should pounce on this opportunity, especially if you can just, like I said, throw some of either your end of the bench guys and then maybe some second round picks, and then you can have a guy like Nick Richards for a very affordable $5 million per season. But let us know in the comments down below of what you guys think the Lakers should do. Do you think Nick Richards is a viable get and a viable option, and the Lakers should go after him, or are you of the mind of they should get another center like the poll we just put out? So a guy like Walker Kessler, or a guy like Robert Williams III, or another guy like Clint Capella, or somebody of that ilk. Let us know in the comments down below. And then also, one more thing, guys, there is about 78% of you guys who've recently watched the videos who are not subscribed to the channel just yet. And if you guys want more of those Laker news, Laker updates, especially with us in the middle of preseason and the NBA season just around the corner on October 22nd, you guys are going to make sure you are subscribed to everything Lakers basketball here at Lakers Digest. All right, I've been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.